The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall continue to follow me all the days of this protracted experience of death, and I will dwell in the house of the most superintelligent power, source, and force of love and creation forever. What's happening? Benton here. Looking forward to addressing you fine folks today. Trust that you're well. Rolling out of the, just fueled up at the Love's truck stop there. What do we got here? 7 hours, 29 minutes, 467 miles to make a delivery in Charlotte. Then it's on towards Charleston, South Carolina. Won't make it there today. And tomorrow morning, so 2 drops tomorrow, then get reloaded sometime somewhere in Atlanta. And then supposedly I'll be moseying over to Memphis to start this dedicated account that they say they're going to put me on, which I know nothing about. We'll see. We'll see. They said Memphis to Effingham, Illinois, but I'm sure there's more to it than that. And then they're talking about bringing me back empty, which may be the case, bringing me back to Memphis empty, but that would only probably last until they could find another customer somewhere in Illinois wanting to go to Memphis, somewhere in the general Memphis vicinity, which, hey, that'd be great. I wouldn't, some people don't want to go from one place to the other place and then back to the first place and do that repeatedly. So, shit, I'd love to do something like that. Something along those lines. That would be great. All right, let's make sure we're on the proper route. Give me just a moment here. Yeah, we're all good. Oh, it's 55, eh? Visibility's a tad poor, a little foggy. Rainy. Never could manage to reapply the Rain X, so we're using the windshield wipers quite a bit. I was going to when I got to the truck stop yesterday, but it was raining just enough to thwart my efforts, unfortunately. And we got out of Connecticut without dealing with much traffic. That was nice. And a few slowdowns in Pennsylvania. Nothing crazy. Boy, they were crashing yesterday morning near Hartford, in the general Hartford, the vicinity of Hartford. Man, crazy. I saw at least 3 pretty big crashes that had occurred. But man, I thought these Yankees knew how to drive in the snow. I think it's maybe just their protesting. It's apparently they've had 2 blizzards and it's been just crazy amounts of snow. So perhaps that's a form of protest. I don't know. Yeah, I realized after yesterday's stream, when I turned off the chat after a trolling comment, and I went on a diatribe about my history on the internet. Now looking back on it, that was some sort of expression of repressed, healing and releasing of certain angers and resentments and frustrations, perhaps. It's all for the good, but I did notice later that day I'd been clenching my jaw, which is, I haven't done that for a long time. But actually, my jaw muscles were starting to hurt a little bit, and sort of leaned into the meditation and did some breathing. But that's unusual that I would be so far removed from a meditative state that I wouldn't notice that I was clenching my jaw, at least initially. So, and then there was a bit of a frenzy in getting out of Connecticut, and the guy that manages that dedicated account is on vacation, so my dispatcher's filling in to some extent. So there was a lot of balls in the air, as it were. Right now, we're trying to stay ahead of the game so we don't have to take a 30-minute break before we get there. 7:52 until break. 7:34. It went from 7:33 to 7:34. That's interesting. How did that happen? On the estimate on the GPS, I almost always beat the estimate. So I guess today I'll be focusing a little more on chilling the fuck out, which is going pretty well. Some bozo at the truck stop had a problem. I could just tell the second I saw him, he had an attitude, something, just angry about something probably, which is fair enough. Not gonna take it out on me, Bubba. So it's all good though. Water under the bridge. Further healing for Mr. Benson. And what did I title this? The dark nature, the dead nature of external unrealities. And some of this, especially yesterday, and I realized I had internalized some things that were inappropriate to internalize in conjunction with, as I pop the top of my cold brewed coffee here. Delicious. And so I had internalized some things that were not appropriate to internalize. And then I guess there's just more. It's amazing. Well, I shouldn't even say amazing. It's interesting with the idea of trauma and stagnated energies. Pain in the tissues, pain in the joints, and the healing and releasing of these energy forms. And I knew it went deep, and a lot has been released over a period of many years, healed, cleared, released. But, and of course, not adding to the what's already there. What has been buried probably since childhood, and being something of a rageaholic much of my life. The reality is whatever's left is probably more likely to be forms of anger than anything else. So that's all happening. and it's dead. Also it's dead. Um, oh, and one other key point is I also realized some errors of holding on to some things, some dead entities, or dead entities, probably not the right term, some forms of death within this protracted experience of death. And that's what seemingly happens, is the individual ends up, instead of identified with the way, the truth, the life, what I am, is those things, and the blessing, supreme authority. What does my user text say? Supreme authoritative righteous source. That's what I am, right? And so the error, or so-called sin, is tied up in uh, either being tricked or defaulting, or for whatever reason identifying and claiming any form of death whatsoever, or dead things, you know. And that can be something as small as, you know, putting pressure on oneself because of, trucking deadlines, or at a certain point, the dispatcher called me and asked a nonsensical question that temporarily caused me to think, well, maybe I hooked up to the wrong trailer, which, it doesn't happen often, but mistakes like that do occur every once in a great while. So I was about to hustle and check the trailer, make sure I had the right freight in the trailer, but turned out he was, again, managing this account that he's not experienced with. He's trying to cover all his bases, and this is something with the younger generations, a lot of confidence. And it's not a fake bravado confidence. It's they're actually confident and have a high opinion of themselves, which is good, and in a very not arrogant way. But then also, that kind of, I think, sometimes gets conflated with assuming a confidence, right? Or I'm sorry, assuming competence. It's like, yeah, we need the competence to be there also, though. Yeah, Bubba, go ahead and go around. I didn't see that we went up to 65, and now I'm confused as to why you're following me at 60. FedEx day cab, probably drives this route every day. You waiting for me to speed up so you can speed behind me? Like, what are we doing? Benton's a pace setter. I'm setting the pace for the whole highway. Now more rigs have caught me, and they won't pass because Benton is the pace setter. See, they know, and again, I don't even get into this alpha beta nonsense. On some level, they know. Spiritually, here we got XPO pulling doubles day cab. I'm not the flow of traffic, folks. I'll take a 30-minute break if I have to. I'd rather not. I might end up doing it anyway. I'm not the flow of traffic. I can't even get up. I'm going to go 68. I can't speed up to 68 because y'all are all trying to slow roll me and hang back. And, now they're going to make a convoy. Like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that movie, man, that's one of the biggest psyops of all time, was that movie Convoy from the, I guess, early 70s or maybe the late 60s. Now I'm still going slower than I was going when they all caught up to me, and I'm catching back up to them. It's like, what are y'all doing? This is crazy, man. And I'm finally starting to realize a lot of these people are just not good. They're just not good at driving. They're just bad at driving. But anyway, my apologies for complaining about the driving. It's like, yeah, I mean, how long do I have to wait to just get up to cruising speed? This is bizarre. We're not going to make it. Every time I try to speed up, I'm just right into a huge group of, vehicles. How is there a huge group of vehicles at 3 a.m.? It's just total confusion. I'll go 55 the whole way. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I'd rather not take a 30-minute break. Fuck it. Don't they know I'm doing my live stream? Yep. See, we lost a portion of the audience. And I've known this for years now that a lot of folks are just, they're not into any sort of extended complaining descriptions of traffic, which, I get it. I understand. But I am driving a truck and it's difficult at times. And part of me will never not just be astonished at what's happening. It's like, is this really going on? It's like, yeah, buddy, this is really so, and let's tie it into the dead nature of external unreality. See, that shit is dead. I'm treating it like as if it's alive. I'm treating the 55 miles an hour as if that's going to matter. Who cares? Just go fucking 55. Pull over on the shoulder and put your flashers on, pack a bag and wander off on foot. Right. So, good. Hey, they want to form a convoy at 3 a.m. Good. All right. They want to, be angry and try to take it out on me at the truck stop. Good. Do it all. Because I might temporarily get lost in these the dead externalities, but they're there 100 now. The cavalcade of slow mergers. Wow. See, this is a waking dream, surrealistic unreality. So, yesterday's jaw clenching is to temporarily forget that this is all dead, man. It's all dead. 55 it is. And then, what's funny is settling in at 55, and then here comes a trio of slow merging auto four-wheelers, and now I can't even go. I had to slow down to 45. Like, wow. But thank you, Dead Realm, and that's the thing about this Dead Realm, the externalities of the Dead Realm. It's not, and again, the so-called truth community has had this conspiratorial notion of, well, they have to tell you, as if that's some sort of spiritual law. No, that's the nature of that's its nature. Its nature is death and the absence of life. And that's what death does when powered by the subversion of the creative force of what I am. That's how it behaves in a death warmed over, ghoulish, garish fashion. Right? Haven't used that phrase in a while, but death warmed over, which is a reference to the subversion of the creative force of what I am. The battery, the power source, Neo in the tank hooked up to wires, power wires, power cabling in the Matrix. And it's just day cab after day cab after day cab, because these folks want to live in a house or an apartment and they want to sleep in a bed. And so the corporation has no choice. The truck manufacturers have no choice. The industry has no choice. It has to facilitate, or it will not have human beings to drive these trucks, because a significant portion of the people who are willing to earn money as truck drivers are going to sleep in their bed. Period. End of story. In a house or an apartment. There's not enough people willing to live in the sleeper cab of a big rig to go around. And that's why, with a clean record and an ability to persist in the job and to quit every time My working conditions become intolerable. Uh, why do they sweet talk me into coming back or into not leaving? Well, that's why, because nobody wants to live in a big rig. And probably that fella that's angry at the truck stop probably has no choice at this time, and he's, if maybe his record's too poor to, maybe he was in one of these day cabs sleeping in his own bed. Now he's angry because he's gotten too many tickets or whatever, and he's having to drive, for some second chance company over the road. I don't know. I don't care. It's his problem. But, you know, I understand the potential plight. It makes sense to me on some level. Not my problem, though, buddy. Take that shit on down the road. Because, like one of my, I won't say heroes, but Mike Tyson once said, I'm on the Ritalin to keep from killing y'all. Right. So the guy at the truck stop, not that I would do anything to him necessarily, but not where it could be traced back to me, of course. Never a dull moment. Death ain't dull. It's a protracted experience of death, and it's not dull. It's a lot of novelty, or well, potential for it, to experience novelty, perhaps. Or is that all dead? I can see how one could lose their way pretty quickly with all this death talk. I think I'm just about the only sleeper truck out here. I think one sleeper truck has passed me so far. I wonder what the day cab to sleeper truck ratio is. Well, at 3 a.m., it's pretty fucking high. All right, we're going to try to go 65. We'll see what happens. I'll give it the old college try here. What about you, Rodney Letman? Because remember, Benton's on levels far above whatever level you're operating on, sir. Let's not forget. I mean, if that sounds arrogant or so-called egoic, so be it. So, who are you talking to? Are you talking to me? Are you talking to the criminal? Are you talking to yourself? And see, this is where I could be of value to people. Now, thankfully, I don't need anything from these people, and I don't mean the listeners. Right. And I'm just going to say it at a basic level. And people are free to type comments until I turn the chat off, and people are free to express themselves. But until we go somewhere together and we both sit cross-legged and you sit there in calm meditation as long or longer than I do, I don't want to, I'm not interested. You got to show me something. So, and I'm a competitive motherfucker, and I've been meditating every day for many, 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 many years. So, that's going to be the minimum standard to tell Benton anything, and to talk to Benton as if the messenger occupies levels above Benton. It's like, well, okay, let's go find a spot, and we're gonna sit down cross-legged. We're gonna turn our phones off, and we're just gonna sit there. And if you get up before I do, I don't ever want to hear another peep out of you. Right. Because I'm gonna get 60 minutes. My warm up's gonna be about 60 minutes. The first 20 will go by, and I'm not even gonna really even. It's just gonna be neither here nor there. Right. When was the last time, Rodney Letman, that you sat cross-legged in a quiet room or outside somewhere without your phone, without any distractions, and you had an object to focus, and you just fucking sat there with a straight spine, and you didn't fucking move for 20 minutes? When was the last time you did that? I did it so frequently and regularly that I don't even do it anymore. And can you sit cross-legged with a straight back? Because here's what else is interesting. Most people, especially males in America, cannot sit cross-legged with a straight back for any period of time. They can't get into that position. Right. And, none of this is to place myself above anybody else. This is the adversarial nature of the realm, is that at times assertion becomes appropriate because otherwise individuals will falsely believe that it's appropriate for them to place themselves above. And then, have you ever asked yourself, number one, have you noticed that you do this? Number two, have you ever asked yourself, what is that and where does that come from? Because I know exactly what that is and where it comes from. It comes from being marketed to and advertised to. And advertising and marketing, a lot of that is tied up in messaging, whereby if you purchase this brand, this product, or this service, your interactions with specific brands authorize you to feel some type of way about yourself. And over time, the way that the person is authorized, seemingly by death, by the way, by dead externalities, the way that the person is authorized to feel and view themselves, to feel about and view themselves, is on these high, exalted levels. So if you have been marketed to and falsely believe that you've been authorized to occupy these lofty perch, well, of course you're looking down at little old Benton, while Benton delivers a high-level advanced course discourse. That's fine. You're still looking down on him from your perspective. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's go find a Bodhi tree and, hey, assume the position. Indian style. I'm assuming you're not a half lotus or a full lotus type of fella, neither am I. Let's get to it, because I'm willing to sit here however long it takes. And maybe I'm biting off more than I'm assuming it's going to be easy. I'm thinking 20 minutes and then the excuses will start. What do I do if we get into hour one and then we're halfway through hour two? Now I'm like, well, shit. I'll sit here all motherfucking day. I'll come back tomorrow, People do 10-day Vipassana retreats. Hell, it might end up being one of those. You feel me? Partner, put up or shut up, motherfuckers. I ain't taking your word for anything when it comes to it. The occupying of a lofty perch. Nope. Nope. See, I can be useful to people, except because of the way that they're marketed to, they can't accept that someone else might possibly have access to knowledge and attainment and all of these things. But if I were to market it to them via branding and then a monetary value was attached to it, because remember, this is America and we only measure in money in this country, then they would be free to purchase my products, attend my lectures and seminars, and perhaps receive one-on-one coaching and instruction in spiritual matters, philosophy, meditation, right? But not without the marketing. So most of you, not all, most of you have this interplay of marketing and branding and don't even understand that that's happening. I detected that. I think I was with my first wife when early in the whatever this awakening has been. I don't think that's the proper way to really think about it, but just I think folks probably understand what I mean if I say awakening. But late 90s, early 2000s, I started noticing certain things, and I guess the waking dream, surrealistic unreality, maybe started becoming more apparent to me for whatever reason. And what really struck me with marketing and advertising was NFL Sunday Ticket. Become the world's most powerful fan. And number one, it just bothered me, and I was somewhat repelled by the message. But then I got to thinking, I said, there's got to be something there. And the more I thought about it, over time, sitting with that idea, gradually I was able to understand, the function of such messaging. And, imagine building a time machine and going back to 1955 and attempting to advertise to the general public based on just straight up telling them that if they buy this product or service, they will become the world's most powerful version of, a specific phenomenon. In this case, a sports fan, the most powerful fan. Well, that's a lofty perch indeed, is it not? And then society, and here's the idea of this guy, Freedom Grower from the so-called truth community, Dick, I believe is his name, or his, anyway. And this idea of problem solving and resolution, coming together to reform dystopia. And I sort of lost my point. Sometimes I get lost in setting things up in the context of a live stream and an audience, addressing an audience, and I get lost in the point I'm trying to make. And that's how fast my brain moves. That's how quick my mind works and moves. It's so fast from one thing to the next thing that pausing 10 seconds to set it up, I've lost it. I don't even remember why I brought up Freedom Grower. Maybe it'll return. Let's see. Perhaps. Oh, well. Can't remember right now. That's a shame. I'm sure it's a point I've made in the past, so who cares? Well, and to backtrack a little bit, so, the spirit of what I am would certainly desire to be useful. So, having access to certain talents and abilities and attainments, spiritually, philosophically, logic and reason, various practices, meditation, the spirit of what I am would certainly is desirous of being useful within the context of this dead world. But I mean, it's dead anyway. What's the difference? Right. And, if these other beings are what I am, then, well, the potential is there. If they are what I am, then they have the potential to uncover and bring forth what I've uncovered and brought forth within myself. So they're not dependent upon me. And that's why all of these movements can't ever bear fruit or, move forward properly. It's because they can never be completely necessary. And so they're always going to oversell themselves, and they're never going to be able to actually deliver, because at the end of the day, I fall into the camp of David Goggins, and not to follow his ethos, but he's just about the only person I've ever heard say motivation is crap. And it is. This idea of motivating somebody and, saying words to them and, rah, 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 go team, go. That's a bunch of bullshit. And he figured out, because he had to figure out, because why did he have to? Because for whatever reason, David Goggins, and I understand it's probably some version of an MK Ultra psyop. I mean, he was a Navy SEAL, for fuck's sakes, among other things, apparently, or at least went through the SEAL training. I think he was a SEAL. Either way, he would have, in order to accomplish what he seemingly has accomplished, especially around these endurance, going far beyond his physical, his mental and physical limitations, or what would seem to be the initial limitations, and pushing beyond, that's something that would have had to have been dealt with. How does the person keep going when there's absolutely no desire to keep going? And in fact, when the flesh and the mind and everything, all of the forms of death are screaming, hey man, stop what you're doing. You don't need to keep running. You don't need to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just stop. It'll be okay. Knock it off. Right? Stop it. And so when the person has committed themselves to continuing on beyond that, then they have to figure it out. And that is a version of first, and this is from The Art of War, first the warrior places himself beyond the possibility of defeat. So David Goggins has decided that he's going to run 100 miles around a track in 24 hours or die trying. Well, when he reaches the point of no motivation. So when a person like that says motivation is crap, well, the one thing the person can do is to occupy an exalted position and start lecturing David Goggins about motivation. And well, yeah, when a person lacks motivation, do this, do that, do the other thing. It's like, well, did you talk to the criminal? Because what does Rodney Letman do if he ever notices? Because what did he type? You have taken back your energy. Are you saying that I have taken back my energy? Is that what you're saying? Well, number one, how would you know? Number two, why are you claiming ownership over something that you seemingly think I've done? That's demonic, sir. And make no mistake, that's a demonic statement, right? Why are you reframing what you perceive that I've done? Why are you reframing that and packaging it and repeating it back to me, right? And this is part of the reason I don't really talk to anybody on panels, or I don't really have conversations with anybody about this stuff as far as a back and forth. Now, I would like to, but there's been people in the past that would sort of LARP as my friend or my internet friend, or an acquaintance perhaps. And, in the discussion, in what seems like it's going to be a discussion of a topic, I'll give some intelligent, well-informed explanation. And then when I stop talking, they immediately want to reframe and restate everything I just said and repeat it back to me, and then respond to their own reframing. And it's like, I won't let people do that. And they get frustrated with me because they're like, well, you keep interrupting me. I said, listen, we can't have a conversation based on, I just said what I said, and now you're reframing and didn't we just hear what I just said? I know what I just said. You seemingly heard just respond to what I said. Why reframe? Why put your own stink on what I just said? For what? What does that accomplish? And what we see is these are the raisers of all bets, which is an analogy from poker. And that playing style is referred to as a maniac. And you don't see very many actual full-fledged maniacs in poker. Why? Because poker requires money, and to play a maniac strategy in the long run, requires, number one, the opponents can't be very good, and number two, the maniac would have to have a very high level of skill. So both things would need to be true. Otherwise, the maniac loses all their money very quickly. They're riding Benton to the promised land. They are riding Benton. Benton's the pace setter. They're riding him to the promised land. Back to 55. I'm exiling myself, sir or madam. I am not the pace setter. Nope. Y'all not riding me to the promised land. That's not finna happen. And so, no, Rodney Letman, I've not taken back my energy, because my energy can't be taken away. It's an endowment that can never be extinguished. It can never be exhausted. It had no beginning and it will know no end, sir. So you're absolutely wrong. And that's why I say that's a demonic statement, because if I then accept your premise, see, that's inappropriate. And in fact, to accept that premise would be for me to treat blessing, the blessing of what I am, as if it were a curse. So you're wrong. You're under demonic oppression, most likely, Rodney. Demonic entities in service of their master, Satan, and death, have detected the presence of what I am, and in jockeying for position in Satan's kingdom of death are coming against me. No, that weapon will not form and it shall not prosper, sir. Sorry, not sorry. See? So you're absolutely wrong. No such thing has occurred, for no such thing is possible, sir. Your premise is impossible. I can never take back energy because I am that energy. Worshipper and object of worship contained within the same space. My cup runneth over, the continuous renewing of the spirit of what I am, sir. There is no imprisonment. There is no glass half empty or half full. That's all dead, sir. Dead. See? And I would say try again, except I know that you will. Now, see, here's the thing is, out of the potential thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions that could potentially hear Benton, potentially, and I've certainly spoken to millions at times, not simultaneously, but over time, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, are there certain individuals that would, for whatever reason, take up a mantle or become inspired within themselves and to say, well, fuck it. I just saw old Benton run a 4-minute mile of self-realization and true knowledge of self, and fuck it. And then the next thing you know, they're doing their own David Goggins 100 miles around a track in 24 hours to qualify for an ultra marathon. That's what he had to do so they would let him participate in the ultra marathon. You can't just show up, apparently, and enter an ultra marathon. Silence is a meditation. And so a person under demonic oppression, how are they going to sit cross-legged under a Bodhi tree for an hour plus? See, those demonic entities aren't going to be into that, and they certainly wouldn't want to be detected. A lot of the demonic entities, a lot of that is they operate on stealth and flying under the radar. And in fact, my own battle with the demon of wrath, as I became more and more adept at exorcism. Oh, yeah. You're listening to an adept exorcist. Many, many demons have been evicted from this seemingly individuated being. Not that any such thing is possible, for what I am is an indivisible force that cannot be individuated or divided. That can never happen, only within the context of delusion and illusion. That's this place. And that's, you can talk about archons or the soul trap or, whatever these beings and energies and forms are that supposedly, are causing this realm as operated. Perhaps the architects of this particular delusion, right? This realm, this world. Doesn't matter. And see, this is where Benton's lack of IQ and lack of intelligence, because make no mistake, those higher levels of intellect, that's all worldly. That's tied up in the dead. That's the dead flesh. I mean, it really is. The layperson has a gigantic advantage. I don't even have to think about those things. I don't have access to that type of intelligence to operate on those levels of death. So neither here nor there. And in fact, many of the people that end up losing their fucking minds and going insane, I wonder with what frequency that occurs in people who have more average or lower IQs versus people with higher IQs. And we don't need to go into the whole IQ is bullshit and it only measures one foot. That's not important. It measures something specific, and what that specific measurement is what I'm referring to here. The fact that IQ can be debunked is irrelevant. I'm using it at the level of official fiction. So we're not going anywhere. There's no reason to pursue that path. That's a non sequitur. Nope, we're not doing that. Where did my coffee go? Did I finish it? Nope, not quite. Well, close enough. Hell, did I lose my point again? Oh, yeah, the archons and the soul trap and all of this. It doesn't fucking matter. Once I recognize that this realm can never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, represent abundance, authority, justice, peace, love, tolerance. That's impossible. That has never, will never, and can never happen under any circumstances whatsoever. The moment I know that, what else? Why do I need to be able to describe it and call it an archon and it's a soul trap and it's a this? Who cares? Doesn't matter. Irrelevant. Irrelevant. Now, I'm not telling other people not to pay attention to that. I'm saying, from my perspective, it doesn't fucking matter. Ah, yes. As the live chat, the chat being open portion has ended. We're going to now transition into the no live chat portion of the broadcast. And the audience determines how long does is the chat open for. Back to the discussion of the raisers of all bets, the maniac strategy. And so, and I don't know, when I turn the chat off, I have no idea. Does your chat just disappear entirely? Or does it freeze? Do the comments stay on the screen, but then new people just don't have a chat? I don't know how it works, but so, assuming anybody could see the last few chats that came in. So there's a structure and a pattern to those chats. And so that's a maniac or a raiser of all bets. So they only ever attack. They only ever communicate in ways that will put the other person on the back foot. Right. Or, so-called, they only ever press. Right. Which is fine, except as Bruce Lee noted in this whole, be like water, once a person takes on a form and marries themselves to it, that is defeat. Right. That is defeat. In fact, they cannot be successful. Right. That's a weapon that cannot form and cannot prosper. It's simply impossible. No possibility. The raisers of all bets. Because what happens is, at some point, it's called the showdown, and both hands are tabled, and in the poker analogy, the dealer reads the hands and the pot is awarded. And so what happens to the maniac is, eventually they can't buy back into the game, meaning they can no longer raise all bets because they don't have any chips left. So what I mean by the defeat is, it's a strategy that it has to, either the person being pressed has to fold every time, because the maniac has to continue to collect chips from the pot, because if the maniac loses too many pots in too short a period of time, they can't continue to play the game. Or, such as in this case, the raiser of all bets is dependent upon somebody's live chat to go into. They have to have a place to go to type their commentary. See? Now that the chat's been removed, there's no game for them to even buy into, and they will never make their own game. See, they won't open their own poker room. So, isn't that interesting? That's never going to happen. Now, what they don't know is that Benton, who used to play a shit ton of poker, I have hundreds of hours of experience with real fucking US dollars. Well, as real as a US dollar can be anyway, of playing a literal maniac strategy of actually raising all bets for hundreds of hours. Meaning I had to have the money to keep buying back. If I kept losing my stack, I had to have the money to buy back into the game. And I've never been a wealthy person in this life as far as money. Now, see, I'm forcing these people to drive their car, and it's hilarious. Because what happened was I caught up to them because they were tailgating a big rig because they don't want to drive there. They want to go down the interstate, but they want to look at their phone and not have to watch their driving. And so what happens a lot of times is that I'm going to pass the big rig, and the next thing you know, I've passed the big rig, but now they've passed the big rig. And then the next thing you know, they're going to try to tailgate me at a higher speed. So now I have to force them to pass me. So now their choice is now they have to go faster than 68. See, they want to go back to looking at their phone, but they can't. See, because now they're actually having to pass other vehicles. They're having to pay attention and watch the road. It's kind of funny. Because I've already showed them the moment they think they're going to slow down and get behind me, I'm just going to brake check the fuck out of them again. But they can't maintain their speed, see? They can't maintain their speed because they want to look at their phone. So, and here's something else with now if you take it away from poker, and the raisers of all bets, and they throw their rotten fish, right? The rotten fish fallacy, and they frame things a certain type of way, and they say, well, first it's an accusation. They call me a name, and then they say, well, and then they give a brief explanation of what they say I'm doing. Okay, I'll accept your premise. Okay, deal with it. Put your big boy pants on and deal with it. So, let's say I'm doing exactly what they say I did. So, deal with it, pussy. Are you really here to take issue with? Let's just assume that you're absolutely correct. Why are you whining and see? I can press. I can raise all bets. Why are you crying? And their only move is to either press back, or a lot of times you'll see them go, "Well, I'm not crying," and then say, "What you're doing this." Right? Like, again, who would want to spend their time and energy engaging in these things? It reminds me of a quote from Tombstone. It's like, this is like playing cards with my brother's kids. It's like, what are we doing? Right? Is this really how people, no, it is. This is how people spend their time. And so this is, add this to the 20,000 reasons why, you know, I've got my own dead flesh to interact with. Why would I want to interact with these other forms of dead flesh? See? And what's that person? What's that experiencer of death trying to work out? Right? What's the point of any of that exactly? To what end? For what purpose? Where does that get anybody? So I'm your huckleberry. You're absolutely right. So what? Deal with it. Suck it up. Don't be a pussy. Why are you crying? Are you, see, two of us can play that game, but see, it's not a fun game. That's a boring, mundane game, and it's a waste. It's a waste. Like, is that really what we're doing? Is that really what we're doing? The royal we, right? Enjoy yourself. Quite humorous. I find it humorous because it's laughable. And it'll be interesting to see, how many times does the same person continue to return, and the only thing they do is their function is they facilitate the chat being turned off, and then I go on to some sort of tangent within my own discourse and elucidate certain concepts. Now we might get real froggy. What I might start doing, I think I might, I've had an idea. I'll have to remember to do this, but I think what I might start doing is I'll do part one will be live chat on, and then
I'll schedule, instead of scheduling one stream, I'll schedule two streams, except the second stream will be unlisted. And so what will happen is the moment the person comes into the chat on that rotten fish fallacy, I'll just immediately end the stream, and then I'll go to the unlisted stream and I'll just talk to the zero. And then when I'm done, I'll end part two, and then I'll make part two public. Maybe I'll start doing that. That would be fun. And so people say, okay, we like to listen live. Why are you punishing us? And it's like, well, I understand that might seem like a punishment. What I would say is, nobody has to do better, right? But the reality is, the only solution to any of the problems that are seemingly plaguing humanity or America or the masses of people in America, there's only one solution. And that solution is individuals must do better, right? Now, part of that arguably could be, hey, if there's a community of channels and there's a trutherverse and there's panels, there's just, the community decides we don't tolerate, as a community, certain behaviors are simply not tolerated. And part of the way that they're not tolerated is everybody wants to watch a live stream, or certain limited, very limited individuals that are available at 4 a.m. Eastern time may want to listen to Benton's, ramblings live. But then when chat shitters show up, see, just don't allow the chat shitters. And then don't allow them into the community, meaning kick them the fuck out. Kick them the fuck out of the community. Meaning don't interact with them. Don't have anything to do with them. When you see them, put them on ignore, right? That's what I do on YouTube. The moment if I'm in somebody else's chat, if I'm reading the chat, the moment I see a name and they post something that I can tell this is not I don't want to read this person's chats, I just immediately block them. And I never read their chats ever again. Because I don't ever see their chats ever again. Unless they come back under other names. And so this is something I figured out with the so-called truth community many years ago. There was this Mitchell who's still around. And at a certain point, when certain people might want to try to hold me accountable for my own behavior, what I started saying was, well, there is no accountability, because we have certain actors, right? We have certain actors who have proven that there's nothing that anybody in the truth community can do and be kicked out of the truth community. So the moment I see that it's not possible for anybody to be exiled, well, now I get to behave as poorly as I want, because nothing's going to happen and nobody has a memory, meaning within a day or two, it's all forgotten. So if I want to behave in ways that are potentially harmful and nefarious, I'm free to do that. Because no one will stop me. Because it's not possible to get ostracized or kicked out. Meaning, and see, that was a powerful exorcism in the name of the Lord Christ Jesus right there. You damn right it was. Woo! Something just got up out of here. Man, I wonder how much of this stuff is left. I got to find somewhere to pull over. That was a really good spot to pull over, but I was too busy kicking out a demon. Man, that was something. Goodness. The demon being expelled out the throat chakra. If you don't believe in chakras, well, that's okay. Whatever. That's up to you. I know what I know. I experienced what I experienced. So now for some reason there's all kind of wide spots on the shoulder, but you can't see them. By the time I figure out they're already gone. It's just so dark and foggy out here, you can't see the wide spots quick enough to stop. Now here's an exit. I might just have to take the exit. Yeah, we're gonna have to take this exit. Half a mile. All right. Bathroom break. Oh man. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Realistically, that's, I would say, the only way to have, uh, certain types of individuals within a community. It's up to the community to foster an environment, because at a certain point, when the individual does better, you know, eventually it's just like, yeah, I can't continue to be around these people and interact with them in the same ways. It just doesn't work, you know. And so at a certain point, the so-called truth community prefers to have certain individuals. It would rather keep the bad actors and see people like me leave than uh than to be intolerant of certain people's bad behavior. And I don't mean, in an accusatory, punitive way. All I'm saying is just don't humor them, right? Don't play into it. Just refuse to interact with it. Oh, is there a fucking light? Oh, there's a goddamn light. I'm gonna get stuck. I wanted to go onto the interstate from where I was, but this is so stupid. Oh, I'm actually gonna make the light though. That's amazing. Anyway, it doesn't even matter. It's still foggy. Man, this is what I mean. These people can't drive. It's too. It's a 70 zone. I'm going 50 motherfucking four. It's like, why are these people in the way? I'm just like, this is bizarre. I'm confused as to what's happening. See, and this is what I mean by the physics of this realm are just, it's not real physics. Because how am I up their ass at 53 and now I'm hammered down to 70 and it's taken, it's like an act of Congress to get around these two trucks. Like, so how am I up their ass at 53, but I can barely pass them at 70? It just doesn't, mathematically, that just doesn't make sense. With now there's 10 cars behind me. So we went, in the snap of a finger, we went from Benton's going 53 after I merged back onto the interstate up two trucks ass to hammered down to 71, struggling to get around the lead dog of the two slow trucks. And I look in my mirror and there's 20 cars in my mirror that all want to go 90 apparently. Like, how's all that possible simultaneously? It's not. It ain't real, man. It's dead. It's never fully real, ever. Anyway, I guess that's enough on the spiritual brainstorming and philosophies and all of that. Unless, of course, I think about more things to talk about. I'm trying to see what else is going on. The mundanities of this so-called life, you know. And I don't. And again, you want to talk about echo chambers, and I'm sure there's lots of people talking about this war and all of these things. I don't. Other than when I look at the Drudge Report, I don't see any of that stuff. None of that. None of the word does not enter into my feed. I don't know. Don't know. Don't care. I know I covered some of the economics yesterday, having to do with oil prices and what that would do in the near term in America. What it will, if the oil goes up and stays up, Brent crude or whatever the fuck they call it, a barrel of Brent, uh, which I said it was 70. It was apparently at some point yesterday, it was up to 80. I don't know what it is now. If they're talking about it, maybe hitting 120. But what that will do in the short run is that will stimulate a lot of consumer spending in America, and a lot of money and liquidity will flow into corporations, right? So that's the one thing about a never-ending series of record profits, hocus pocus, smoke and mirrors. But at some point, the motherfucking liquidity has to flow into the corporation, or like we saw with Enron. I mean, or at some point, it's going to become default. Like at some point, money has to flow in. And if anybody's ever read the novel Catch 22, Joseph Heller, in that very humorously, the author describes a process of how, more or less these corporations are able to profit from this entire cycle of war, the whole way through. They make money no matter what happens. And this, whatever's going on now is that, right? But there's only one reason that there's a war. And that's because, and I'll say from the American perspective, right? So if people say, well, that's American bombs and that's, Trump and this and that, there's only one reason that there's a war. It's because Americans pay taxes. That's the reason. If Americans didn't pay taxes, there wouldn't be a war, or there wouldn't be this war in this form with these players. America wouldn't have the bombs to participate unless what? Some other country paid for the bombs and gave them to America? Right? Which apparently America pays for a lot of things going on in a lot of other countries. Man, look at this cavalcade of slow mergers. Goodness gracious. And this is what I mean by individuals must do better within themselves. If enough individuals, you know, grew and changed and evolved within themselves, you know, mind, body, and spirit, eventually they would understand, you know, they would not be able to continue to paying, they just wouldn't be able to continue paying taxes. You know, that would be the effect, right? So this is what I mean. Individuals must do better. So yeah, people may be free to misbehave and politicians may be free to, you know, commit things that the public believes to be crimes and all of this. But eventually, if enough individuals do better, then such things will become impossible because nobody will deal with those type of people. It just wouldn't be possible for somebody to get into a position, a trusted position of leadership and behave that. It just wouldn't be possible. And so there can't be a war unless the populace is willing to pay for the war. It's the only thing that causes a war is that the people are willing to pay for it. Now, I understand all of the reasons that will be cited. Yeah, I understand there's people will cite reasons for having an army and having bombs. And yeah, I understand there's reasons. That's not what I'm talking about. Because really, when I start talking this way, there really is no counter argument because the moment the person starts to justify what America does, they say, well, we have to do this and we have to do that. It's like, well, wait a minute. What do you mean by we? I'm not doing any of that. I'm, you know, say we're at war. I'm not at war. What do you mean? I'm not it. Yeah, I'm not at war in the Middle East. What do you mean we? I'm not in that group. They say, well, what do you mean? You're an American, right? Well, wait a minute. No, I mean, I'm not in the group of people who support the war and support murder and support traveling to other parts of the map and murdering the people that live there. And they say, what do you mean? We're not in support of that either. I say, oh, you don't pay taxes? They said, no, we pay taxes. I say, then you are supporting that. The government is taking your support called taxes and it's building armaments and putting them in troops are using those armaments to murder people. So you absolutely you support that. By definition, that's the definition of the word support. An insane drunk person attempting to reverse on the interstate. So yeah, I'm just gonna go. Yeah, something's happened. I'm going slow. Something's going on. I don't know if there's been a wreck. Something has occurred. Something bizarre is happening. And see, all of this stuff in the news makes people crazier than they already are. You know, there's a ripple effect to all this. At this point, if there was anywhere to pull over, I'd probably just, if there was anywhere to park, I think I'd just pull over at this point. It's just how strange it's getting on the roads. Just bizarre. Bizarre things are happening. And I'm going to have the talk with the company, which is, look, I mean, obviously, we all understand that I'm a bad motherfucker. You know, as long as I'm not expected to back the trailer up. If we're not talking the time to back up, if I'm going forward, I'm a bad motherfucker. But these people are out of their fucking minds out here. Yeah, I don't even know what this is at this point. This is completely fucking insane. Get the fuck away from me. I don't know what you are or who you are. You got to get the fuck away. That guy just drove right up to my bumper and almost followed me onto the shoulder. Yeah, this is bad juju, whatever this is. I don't know what this is. I don't want anything to do with it. And he damn near stopped. And he passed me. He went past me at about 15 miles an hour. Yeah, something's fucking going down. And I don't know what it is, but I'm not involved and I'm not going to be swept up in it. I don't know what drugs these people are on, but they're on something. But yeah, I'm just going to have talking to with the company, which is, look, I have no problem hauling fucking balls, but these people are starting to drive so fucking weird that once they start driving weird, only thing I can really do is slow the fuck down. And sometimes they still drive so weird. All I can do is pull over to the motherfucking shoulder and let them get away from me. I don't know what to tell you. It's getting so bad that at this point, I'm not even sure I can get where I'm trying to go on time necessarily. I mean, this is fucking crazy. Yeah, I give up. I give up. .45 with the flashers on. Complete insanity out here right now. Total insanity on the roads. So I'm going to try to find me a little pocket, and I'm just going to go 55. I mean, that's really all I can do at this point. I mean, this is just, I've never seen anything like this. This is fucking bananas. Is it that full moon? I don't know what the fuck's going on. This is just crazy. This guy almost sideswiped me. This car that just almost fucking sideswiped me, that just passed me. I look over, he's like half a foot away from my truck. Just people on the fucking shoulder with their fucking blink, with their flashers on, like a group of 6 cars pulled over. Like, what are they doing? Nuts, man.
And remember, man, anytime something starts happening like this war or a pandemic, motherfuckers are already on drugs and they double down and triple down on their drug doing. You know, they go more to the substances. I mean, this is fucking bananas. Anyway, I'm out of here. Bye.